And if you think you know what type of student I was, the answer may shock you. Before Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome all new listeners, and welcome back to those who have heard my content in the past. Today is about my unique experience in PT school. And if you think you know what type of student I was, the answer may shock you. Before we move on to the podcast, what is new in life? Life is actually good. This past weekend, we just spent some family time out at the beach with the team at Sports Performance. We also did some, what did we do? We did the Wild Animal Park. That was fantastic. Just getting to see the animals and hang out with the kids. Life is good. Training is good. Staying consistent. It's been kind of the theme across discussions I've had with team members, with just a lot of friends and family. Just staying consistent wherever you are. I hope that you're staying high with your fitness, your nutrition, and everything else that is going on in life. But for me, that has been great. My kids are good. Today, my daughter. If you don't follow me on Instagram, do that right now, Chris Garcia, DPT. My daughter shocked me today. She wanted to wear some brown shorts. My 3-year-old daughter wanted to wear some brown shorts with some very glittery boots. And I just looked at her, and that's what she wanted to wear today. So I said, today is where it all starts. I'm excited to be part of the journey to see my daughter develop, and it's amazing. My kids are good. Life is good. So, all right, on to the podcast. Why am I doing this podcast? Like, what is it about this topic? I was talking to my wife. I feel like that should be the name of the podcast sometimes. I was talking to my wife, and she said, "I'm very surprised that you were that type of student." And I said, "Why?" And she goes, "Because you're so type A and OCD and perfectionist right now." And I said, "That's a very fair observation." And today I spoke with a former intern who's now in PT school, Kenshin, if you're listening to this. We were talking about some things, and I want Kenshin to be part of my new retreat and a couple other courses. And I was talking to him about my experience in PT school because right now that's where he's at. And I said, for those of you listening who've been in PT school already, or you're a student right now, don't take this the wrong way. This is the easiest it will get. If you're in PT school right now, this is the easiest it will get. I promise, because like I call it thresholds. I think that we all are. Life is as hard as that. Like this is the hardest it'll ever get, and then you like kick on to another position or something else in life, where you add kids, you add a wife, you add a spouse, you added something, and life gets a little harder, and you're like, oh, it can't get any harder. And I feel like in all of us in PT school, that's how we all felt, right? Like that was our level or threshold of like how hard it can get, and rightfully so. It's a very difficult challenge, a difficult time. And I was talking to him about that, and I wanted to drop that bomb on him, and he wasn't too happy about that. But is it a little reality check? So, as I was reflecting, I was like, my experience in PT school is very different than a lot of other people, and I want to explain why. And if you're new to my world, if you've never heard any of my podcasts, you've never followed me, you've somehow stumbled upon my podcast, I'll give you a refresher. And those who have heard this in the past, you might know it, but just understand there's different elements to this history and my story that you might not know. And I'll come out at one point and tell you more about my upbringing and how I got to where I am today. But right now, I just want to talk about PT school. And so a little background to help understand my journey that a lot of people don't know, and I've exposed it in some other podcasts, is that and I used to be very shy about this. I used to be very like, oh, I don't want people to know I was weak, or I didn't know how to do this or that. For the large portion of my high school time, my tenure at high school, up until about 12th grade, I was illiterate and I couldn't read or write. And you got to ask, like, how is that possible? I slipped through the cracks, and I'm not the most proud to say that, but it's reality, and I'm okay with that. Before I wasn't. Before I thought people would judge me. And yeah, so I was illiterate till I was about 17, 18, and there was just a lot of very helpful people in my world who wanted to see me do more. And it wasn't necessarily my parents. I was born and raised by my grandma, and we didn't have any money whatsoever. whatsoever. And growing up, just trying to make it and survive in this world is very different. It's a different perspective. And in that environment, I used to also try and find resources to be able to eat, to be able to have money. And along the way, when you don't have a lot, you're very skeptical of people, like who's helping you and who isn't and why. And that to me was my greatest skill set, is understanding and reading people. And that really helped me understand, like, okay, well, why are we helping? Why is this person trying to help me? And then now in my career, why I'm trying to help somebody. And I understand people's skepticism when they come in, and I can read that and I understand that, and I can hit it head on. And so when people were trying to help me growing up, I was like, man, like, I'm super skeptical. Why are you doing this? I had teachers who were trying to help me out. And in college, I was learning how the fundamentals. When everyone else was trying to get good grades so they can get a PT school, I was actually double duty. I was I was trying to learn how to like read and write while everybody's trying to like get straight A's. And I had to turn my life around. And I've met some really incredible people who helped me along that journey. But it took a lot of time and effort to get to that point. And I would go to PT school. Sorry, I would go to my undergrad at San Diego State. I'd get there at like 4:35 in the morning, and I would, it's like a 30-minute drive from my grandma's house. And I drive there about 35 minutes, and I show up, get started at the library, and just read and just figure out like how sentences were formed, why do you use commas, semicolons, colons. And I would just read. I was trying to catch up with homework, but also learn the basics. And then I'd go to class 8 to 9 or whatever that was until like 3 or 4 or 5 p.m. And then I'd stay there till about 11 o'clock at night, just trying to like catch up with everybody else on this planet. And I would go to school from 4 or 5 in the morning to 11 p.m. at night, and I was really trying to learn the fundamentals. And so, like, how does this talk to me about PT school? So if you know that, my journey to PT school is very different than a lot of other people. And so when I was trying to apply to PT school, most people don't know this, that I met a really good mentor, and his name is Fred Kolkhorst. He was the dean of kinesiology at the time, and incredible human being. He introduced me to the state of Missouri. I'd never seen that thing on a planet. I'd never seen it on a map. I was like, where is Missouri? I'm a California guy. I have no idea where anything outside of like Nevada, Mexico, and maybe like Arizona. And we're spoiled in that sense. And so he really introduced me to the Midwest. And he was the one who introduced me to research. And he says, hey, you know what? I think this is something that is up your alley. I was passionate about like numbers. I love science. I love numbers. I think I took anatomy like 5 times just because I enjoyed it. And then he kind of saw that from above, and he's like, you have a lot of passion and interest. Would you think about helping me in the lab? I said, absolutely, I'll do that. So I joined him, and he said, you know what, you got a knack for this. You ever thought about doing research? And I was like, I don't know what to do. Just point me in the right direction, and I'll try and hit it out of the park. And so he's like, hey, you know what, you should be looking into a PhD. You're good at science, and you're a hard worker, and technical writing is very different than creative writing. And would you be interested? I was like, you know what, if you tell me that that's what I'm supposed to do, I'll do it. And I always trust that people who have my best interests, I'll just go along for the ride. So he tells me, hey, there are some programs. I understand you want to do physical therapy, but you can also do a PhD at the same time. And I was like, what? That's crazy. He said, there at the time, this was in 2006, 2007. He said, there's 3 of them in the country. I think USC, University of Kansas, and Washington University in St. Louis. He said there's only 3 programs in the country, and it's a DPT PhD program. And what that is a 3-year doctorate in PT, and an additional 3 to 4 for your PhD. And I was like, I'm already along for the ride. Let's do it. And he says, you got to love what you do. And I said, I'm really passionate about helping people. That underlying everything, whatever it takes, I'll help people. And he says, all right, let's apply. So he shows me the ropes. Here's how you have to do this, blah, blah, blah. And believe it or not, I'm saying this because I'm very blessed in my life. With his help and everything that we do, application. There was another group that also helped, a lady by the name of Maureen Gibbons, who helped underprivileged minorities at San Diego State. And so she helped me find funding for a lot of this stuff. And she says, hey, I think this is a great program. You should try it. So we applied all 3. I get in. Here's a caveat. There's only 1 student. They only take 1 student per year for a DPT PhD program. And I I mean, you're talking about, a kid from San Isidro, California, illiterate, and trying to, just help people. That was my goal, and I had some people who were trying to help me. And I was very fortunate to get into these three programs, and I got accepted as the single student, and I had to make one final decision on what that meant for me and who I was going to be with. And a lot of people don't know this. At the time, my grandmother, who raised me, she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And in PT school, I found this out, and I had never left my grandma before. And so this was a very hard scenario in my life. I was like, the person who raised me, the person who gave everything for their life to be able to give me a platform to be successful, do I leave them? Do I do this, right? And as a kid, I mean, you're just trying to make the best of your life, and you hope that you're making the best decisions, and you don't know until later if this is the right one. And so I oh, it's a very sensitive topic for me. And, I decided to go out, and I chose Washington University in St. Louis. And the reason I chose them is because that it's hard to say, like, it's whenever you like find good energy, you feel like it's going to be a good fit for you. I flew out to Kansas, and I was like, whoa, this is very different for me. I was like, where are all the hills, the mountains, and where's the where's the beach? And so that didn't work out for me. I went up to USC, and it just didn't fit what I wanted to do. So I ended up choosing Washington University in St. Louis as the only candidate to get into the DBT PhD program. So I go into this thing thinking like, man, I'm going to do research, and this is going to be amazing for me. And then I get into the PT school, and I think there's like 55, 56 of us. And I start talking to everybody else. And at the time, this is the #1 program in the country. I think between USC, University of Pittsburgh, and WashU, or Washington University in St. Louis, these were the top 3 schools. And I think they were battling out every year, it changed. But anyways, at the time, WashU was the #1 school. So I was like, I can't believe this. Of course, I'm going to take this. It was the #1 school, plus it had a DPTA PhD program. I was like, I'm in. So I show up, and I got blown away. I was like, I met everybody. I was like, oh, shaking hands, and high-fiving everybody. And we're like, oh, this is such a cool class. And you get to know everybody. And I was like, oh, I am very different than everybody here. And how so? Everybody was like 10 times smarter than me. They were so smart. They had accomplishments beyond anything I had accomplished in my life. I don't like take me for granted, but like I think that there was like half of them were like valedictorians at some point in their life in like high school. And I was like, oh, I was very humbled by how smart they were, how organized they were. They were just so systematic. They had all this stuff planned out. You could tell they were going to be successful. You knew when you met. I mean, I'm sure some of you were shaking your head. You're like, oh, there's some of those people in my class now, or they were in my class previous, or whatever it was. And it was just a good, like, it was a good punch to the stomach for me, a little reality check that, you think you're like making it in this life, and you finally meet other people who are more successful, and you're like, man, that's a good, thank you. Good humbling moment. Now I'm just gonna just round my shoulders and walk away. And so I met a lot of great human beings, and people from all over. Some people went to Brown, some people to Rice, some people were all over Princeton, you name it. There was just people from all different walks of life. And I really enjoyed my time, but more so, I learned a lot about. Um, I thought I was like coming in strong. I had a hard work ethic, and then I met other people who just have done it to another degree. And for me, I found other people that I could look up to or use as a resource to help push me up as well. And so I didn't see them as competition. I saw them as like, man, how do I be like you? Like, how did you get here? Tell me about your childhood. Tell me about your work ethic. Tell me about your undergrad. Like, how did you get to this point? And so I met a lot of good people who helped me out along the way too. And here's a couple facts that you would never know. So #1, I definitely wasn't the superstar student. Given my upbringing and everything else, I really changed my life around, and I wanted to do the absolute best. So I started working hard. I wanted to get straight A's, and I got to PT school, and I was like, there's for everybody here listening, PT school, there's just so much volume of work that you can only tolerate so much. There's only so much you can take in. So in PT school, I developed like a sleep pattern challenge. One day, it was probably my first year in, and I started studying so late that it was like 2 or 3 in the morning. And I was like, oh, I'll just take like a 2, 3 hour nap and then wake up again and then go to school. And I did that. So I woke up, I went for like 2 hours, I slept, and then I went to school or class. And then I was like, midday, I was like, oh, I'm just crashing. I'm just going to go take like an hour nap during lunch. So that hour nap turned into like a 2 hour nap. And then I missed an hour of class. And then after class, I was like, man, let me just take another nap, like 1, 2 hours. So I slept another 2 hours, like 6, 7 p.m. And I woke up at 9. I was like, oh, I'll study again till like 3. And then I developed this habit. Instead of taking like 1 6 to 8 hour like sleep, I took like 2 to 3 2 hour naps. And, it actually was efficient for me, like to get through PT school, but it wasn't the most beneficial for like total REM sleep, total like actually good quality sleep. And it messed up my sleep pattern. And what that did for me was I actually had to sleep through some classes. I couldn't shake it. Like I couldn't. And I didn't want to take any melatonin. I really just wanted to figure out how I can do it. And on the weekends I would sleep like massively, 12 hours, Saturday, Sunday. And then here we go again, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, I go back onto this pattern and I couldn't shake it for a while. Probably, almost to the third year. And what that did for me was it actually, I ended up missing a lot of class. And I joked with the former intern Kenshin. I asked him, I said, hey, you missing any classes yet? And he's like, no, that'd be expensive. I was like, oh, if I calculated how much I missed, not because like I'm proud of that, because of my sleep challenge, I just couldn't fix it. And I missed a lot of class. I missed a lot of class. And I mean, hours, mm, upwards of maybe over 50 to 100. I mean, that's a lot of class for when you like calculate the amount. Don't do that. Don't do that. I don't want to know. So I missed a lot of class. And what that did for me was, if you understand that I didn't know how to read or write very well, but so I had to figure out a way to learn a little faster than or at the same level as everybody else. So I became a really good audio learner. So like for me, my wife always gives me a hard time, but if I can hear something once, I'm in like that. And people like that. Maybe like they see it once and they remember, they hear it once and remember, and read it once and they remember. I'm not that person. I can like when I hear it, that's my strongest. When I see it, oh, I'm in. And then when I read it, not so much. But if I hear it and I see it, whoa, that is like it's staying in the back of my head and it's not leaving. And so class was perfect for me. So PT school was perfect because I could watch exactly what they were saying. I could recall it and then I can hear it. And that to me was the best thing for me. So when I was in PT school and I missed class, that impacted everything. My learning style was affected. And that made it really hard for me to take exams. So I remember like just cruising through some stuff. I remember like just using logic. I'm like, okay, what makes sense? Anatomy and recall, like recall based classes, that's very difficult. But when you're talking about like classes in, I don't know, the social aspect of PT or clinical case studies or whatever it is, something where you can like, that's intuitive, that makes sense. And so I used intuition for a large portion, and I would just have to study elsewhere or like a little bit more than everybody else on the back end because I missed so much. And I won an award my senior year, my third year of PT school. I won an award that I'm not the most proud of, most likely to miss class. And no, I'm not proud of that, but I learned a lot about myself and my study habits and my work ethics to be able to get to where I'm at today. And there's not like a lot of like lessons off of that. I'm not doing it to tell you, anything, but I just share like for some of you who think that, maybe it's hard for you to get the grades that you want. Some of you, you're getting certain amount of GPA or you can't get a concept. The reality is, it's okay. Like I'm still here. I'm making it in the profession, and that's real. Like not everybody not the most successful people have 4.0s and all this other stuff. And I think the people who are able to balance life with work and academia and personal life and whatever your fitness and everything, those people who can balance a little bit of that are the ones who are going to be able to juggle life. Because when you go to work, The minute that you have a spouse or kids or a job, or maybe you want to go to the gym 5 days a week and your job makes you work certain nights and you can't wake up in the mornings, and your spouse now says, hey, we're going to go out to dinner, and messes up your whole fitness routine, like you're going to have to balance and juggle life when it hits you. Life is as easy as it gets right now. Wherever you are in life, it's the easiest. And I've learned that with 3 kids and big team at Sports Performance, that every time we add on more, it's just getting exponentially more difficult, more challenging. And so right now, wherever you are is the easiest it will get. And so when you're in PT school, sometimes you think like it's the hardest thing on in the planet, but those lessons have really helped. They've extrapolated to my personal life, and like things are going to be okay as long as you can learn how you learn. Like I'm an audio person, so I know that I just need to hear it. If I can see it, even better. So podcasts for me are king. So whoever's listening on the podcast, or if you're watching this on my YouTube channel, good for you. That's your learning style, and others just need to read it. And I get that. And so PT school was a tough journey for me. So I'll give you the outcomes. For me, um, not completing the PhD program. And so what does that mean? For me, okay, so I went in with the DPT PhD program, and I thought, man, research is going to be everything. And along the way, I developed sleep. Oh, so what I didn't mention is okay, so what did a DPT PhD program require that was outside the normal PT program? So all of us know DPT schools, physical therapy schools, like tough. No, I don't care who you are. It is a challenge, not impossible, a challenge. However, so what did a PhD program on top of that include? So I had to do, I think, 15 hours, 15 hours additionally of either research or being in a lab. I think it was like 5 hours, 3 times a week, or some math of that sort. And I had to be with somebody, my mentor, and I had to do research. I had to like work on numbers or stats or writing or like data collection, whatever it was. So on top of PT school, every week I had to do 15 hours of research. And for those of you who are in PT school right now, you appreciate how like 15 hours, you're like, that's all my exercise time, or, whatever it was on the weekends. And so I had to tackle that at the same time. So I did the full 3 years with all that extracurricular work. And for me, that was tough. I mean, you can understand why I had a challenge with my sleep, because there was so much more of a workload on top of that. And the responsibility, like internally, like you never want to fail. You never want to get below a B. You actually want to get an A, but you understand that it's not possible with the volume of PT school plus 15 hours of research. It was tough. And so for me, I knew that research was amazing. However, when I started working in clinicals, I was like, this is amazing. I love helping people. I love the interpersonal side of it. And I developed a passion for working with people, not necessarily in a lab and collecting data, but more of like improving whatever, they wanted to work on, whether it was pediatrics or geriatrics or neuro. I love just that element. So for me, I decided that the PhD program wasn't for me. And to this day, I know it was the right decision. I ended up going to a sports residency at the time. There was only, I think, like 5 at the time. So post PT school, there was only 5 sports residencies in the country, and they were each taking one. And I think it was like Pittsburgh, Ohio State, Duke, Minnesota, and I think USC or something of that sort. And I know a couple of my classmates, we were all competing for the same 5 slots. So for me, residency was the best option for what I wanted, my passion, like where I was moving forward with my life. But what people don't know is that in between the deciding on the PhD and the residency, I had one thing that came up in my eyes that opened my eyes to a different channel, a different specialty. And that was pediatrics. One of my final rotations was a neurology, outpatient neurology clinical, and I did it in Los Angeles at a pediatrics facility. So we would see people, kids from like 6 months to like 3 years. Some of them were even up to 5 years. And it was everything from CP to Down syndrome to you name it, more outpatient neurology. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I fell in love with so many kids. Like they just warmed my heart. And I was like, it's not fair because they don't even it was very difficult for me emotionally to figure out how I can help these people. And I got so frustrated when they just couldn't improve, and it wasn't their fault because they weren't getting in the practice. They couldn't get, and it's not the parents' fault. Sometimes it was a funding thing. The local school didn't have the funding, and it just like emotionally hit me hard. And I couldn't picture myself doing outpatient pediatrics. I just the emotional component to that would hit me, and I'd take it home with me, and it was just very rough. So as a student, you want to change the world, you want to change the planet, and for me, I was like, there's going to be a limitation to what I can do because of funding and maybe the parents or the child, the motivation. And man, I almost went to pediatrics. I almost said no to the residency. So if any of my mentors listen to this podcast, I almost did not go because I almost went to a pediatric clinic in Los Angeles. Nonetheless, I chose it wasn't for me. I'm very happy with my outcome and everything that's gone into it. So what type of a student do you think I was? Definitely not like a plus type of a student. I was, I didn't mean to miss that much class, but I did. Actually, there were some nights, some classes and some days that I slept under the plinth because I was so exhausted. Literally, I was exhausted. Exhausted is a perfect word. I was so tired. Sometimes I just doze off and then I would just go under the plinth for 15, 20 minutes. So I hope my instructors don't hear that. But that is the reality of it. So those who, those of you who have a story of, PT school wasn't the best for you, or you were wondering if PT school like is a reflection of how you're going to be in your professional career, absolutely not. I tell people that, think about this. I was illiterate till I was 18. I went to college. I had to work twice as hard as everybody. Got into PT school because people mentored me. Got into PT school, and I realized that there are students who were just studs. They were just so far ahead of me, and then being humbled and understanding that you think you're good, you think you're smart, you think you have a hard work ethic, and then you meet more amazing humans. And I remember walking in there and meeting everybody. I was like, half of you are valedictorians, and all of you are so much smarter and harder workers than me. Like, how am I gonna do? At that point, I was like, the first time I was like, how am I gonna do this? And then I developed a sleep challenge, and you got to understand, like my road, my path to PT school, maybe you're listening to this, you're like, oh, very similar, whatever it is. Or maybe you were in a different profile. Maybe it was easier for you. Maybe like it was a piece of cake and you're crushing it. You're being a successful clinician. Good for you. But what I'm saying is for those people who maybe have had a challenge in PT school and maybe you're struggling with, being a clinician at the moment, they do not correlate. They're completely different. What I bring you on to the team at Sports Performance, if I knew that you were a hard worker and like a PT school is only setting a platform for you, and you just got to develop your work ethic. You got to develop who you are, all those aspects. That is the important part of PT school. You just self-development, self-awareness, so that way when you're a clinician, all you do is figure out what you're good at, what you're not good at, and then what you're going to end up doing to make sure that that doesn't transfer to your patient case or your patient load. And my PT school was different, from high school to undergrad to PT school, and then being with amazing human beings. And they've been a big part of my network, and they've helped me along the way. And maybe they don't know it as much as they helped me, but that was tremendous. And for those of you who are thinking about, did you choose the right setting? Outpatient neuro, sports, ortho. If you're in my world, you're probably going towards sports. And just know that if you've ever been like dangled a little carrot and said, hey, maybe you should think about ortho, maybe you should think about neuro or pediatrics, that's very normal. I almost did it. Like literally, I almost did it. That one decision. Honestly, I've thought about this and I talked to my wife about this. If I would have made that decision, I wouldn't have met my wife potentially. I would have moved to LA, not met my wife, not do the residency, not work for the United States Olympic Committee, not worked pro sports, not worked NFL combine training, not opened a company, Sports Performance, to be able to bring on amazing human beings onto this team. I wouldn't have been able to do any of that. But my life would have been changed. I don't know. But all I know is that carrot was dangled, and I made a decision that I felt was the best at the time. So for those of you who are caught up and understanding, like, which decision should I go? Should I go this route? Like, whatever, just there's no wrong answer. Like, you'll figure it out. And those are who are committed to sports. You're like, I'm in. I know this since I was 16, and this is where the direction I was supposed to go. Good for you. But just know there's other people on this planet who had a different route to get to the point where they're at. And for me, ending up in pro sports for many, many years, my route was so different to get to that point. And whoever needs to hear this, just know that that's normal. I went through it, and I'm very happy with where I'm at. But my life could have changed, and yours can too. Whether even now, if you're in sports and you're pro sports, or you're in an orthopedic setting and you want to move into sports, just know that whatever you did, PT school and ortho, or whatever it is, doesn't set the path for what you're about to do next. You can change that at any given time. I literally changed it 1 month before signing with the sports residency. My life could have changed. I decided not to go PhD, didn't do the pediatrics route, and I went sports residency, and that just this opened a whole nother channel for my world. Yeah, so that is my journey, my unique experience, and my unique journey through PT school. Met a lot of amazing people. I thought I was going to be, a DPT PhD student, and I didn't end up going that route. It was hard to keep up with all the amazing humans, and I was easily humbled. I wasn't the student that you might think I am. I do love audio style of learning versus reading or writing. And then those of you who maybe think that only the successful ones are the 4.0s and the 3.9s, and those are going to set them up for success. That's not always the case. So I don't know where you guys are at along that spectrum, but I wanted to share my story. If you've been in my world, you understand I have a different path. And whether that gives you light at the end of your tunnel, or it's just a different experience to be able to work with individuals like that, just know that not everybody has that same route, and it's amazing to just listen to other people's stories. So that is my unique experience through PT school, and I hope you enjoyed it. Yes, all of that is 100% true. It's taken me a while to be okay to be able to share that with you guys, but I hope you appreciate it. And I will see you guys on the next episode. I hope that you guys are amazing. If you haven't yet, you need to be thinking about coming to one of my retreats. I have a course set up March 12th and 13th of 2022, whenever you're listening to this. I have a retreat coming up, and that is a sports accelerator course that's for acute injury management. I have another one in June, and another one, I think, in September, October. I got to look at the dates. And those are going to be very different retreats. Some are more strength and conditioning based, and then some are rehab timelines and progressions to be able to help all of your patients and athletes. So just put that on your calendar. If you have any questions, email me directly, Dr. Chris at drchrisgarcia.com, and I'll make sure to reply personally and make sure that you are set up for success. All right. I will see you guys on the next episode, and I hope you guys are doing well. Take care, guys. Bye.